Welcome to Podcaster Toten. My name's Rad.
Matt.
Hello, I am Tack.
Today we're doing a taken inventory on Broken Arrow. So we got plenty of facilities to look at, mainly just because of that map on Alpha Omega, which has a bunch of locations pinned. So I guess the best place to start is with the original Broken Arrow site, the one we all know at least. That would be the Hanford site, aka Green Run, aka Transit. So what the map says about the Hanford campus is that it's for application testing. So what does that mean to you? Application testing.
I don't know. I mean, the first thing that I was thinking is that it's connection right to the Manhattan Project, and like, is there? And then the what was it? Isn't it at the end of Alpha Omega? There's the nuke to kill the Avogadro. So it's like, I don't know. Is there still continuing like nuclear testing and stuff like that related to at that site? Maybe the Manhattan Project kind of.
Green Run is an actual thing. Let me see.
Yes.
There's a secret U.S. government release of
Well, that's what I'm
radioactive
saying.
products. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point.
Like, I wonder if the project then all those resources became related to Broken Arrow, and I don't know. It just, especially with the nuke at the end of Alpha Omega, and right, because isn't it there as a failsafe if Purnell escapes? So just, and obviously there's still, during the Cold War, there's still a bunch of testing, but
Right.
I don't know, maybe there was an added element of 115 nukes. I don't know. Like, I can't see that part of it dying in this universe.
Definitely.
If it's linked now to Broken Arrow.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it said that it was given to them. Like it was running before, but then it was given to Broken Arrow. So yeah, that's a good point. But my interpretation of application testing was like, we made this prototype wonder weapon at X facility. Now we can test its application here because it's so, secluded and it's so far away from the public eye. Or it can be tested like undercover on people. So stuff like MK Ultra, right? It can be tested on the locals there because it's near town. That was just my interpretation.
That's true. I think there should be an interesting, to delve into, I guess it would be MK Alpha, but to really see that morally gray side of Broken Arrow would kind of be a neat, and how they interacted with the locals. If there was ever weird things like that, I think that would kind of be a fun plot point to explore.
For no real reason at all. I thought that application testing campus, for some reason, in my mind, I tied it back to the Call of Duty Zombie Labs testing lab
actually.
stuff. For some reason, that just resonated.
Yeah, because to me, Call of Duty Zombie Labs in universe meant like it's like where you apply the wonder weapons that Group 935 made, and that's what it seemed like in the trailer. So yeah, that's a good that's a good pull.
Right, that was something that stuck out to me. Otherwise, everyone has their own great ideas on it. So who knows? But
there's probably plenty of crazy shit going there. But so they were applying Ted. I know there's a blueprint for Ted and Classified, and then he shows up in Alpha Omega. So I guess they made multiple of him, but just the one we know is just one model used as a bus driver.
Yeah, I'm assuming, are there multiple? I guess that makes sense, to not to start another tangent, but how Ted mentions all those other sites. I'm assuming then there probably were multiple Teds, and I guess all the sites were sort of connected via these transport drones or something like that.
Right. Well, yeah, the one in Alpha Omega is just like the attendant in the recreation lounge or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're supposed to just be like these robots that you kind of interface with, and they take care of things, but they're It's like, I mean, you can look in the blueprint. There's like a bunch of weird shit about it where like it's just he's not supposed to be sarcastic and angry all the time, but that's just how he is. That's
Huh.
interesting.
Well, it reminds me,
I always. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Where's the which map is it that has the quote like "they're alive"? Is that Alpha Omega? Isn't there like some like wall writing where it kind of makes me think like, when I first read it, it's like, oh, I guess they didn't expect the. I don't know who wrote it.
I thought it was to do with the ADAMs.
Yeah, but I mean like well, you know what? I thought it was with Purnell controlling them and sort of almost making them appear to have a life of their own. But now that you're making,
they kind of did because the elemental shard like made them almost human-like, as Hale described it.
Was that still under Purnell's direction though? That's what I was wondering. Or like, did this happen before Purnell entered the MP or the APD?
Yeah, it was before that. He wanted her to continue doing that because it allowed them to kill them and fuel the pyramid.
Oh, okay. So then this was before he stepped in. All right. Yeah, I was just okay. But I still kind of think it's at least fitting to how it could also be a reference to just all the other types of AI or any type of mechanical life that seemingly developed a personality, because Ted has a personality. I guess you could even include Rushmore to some extent. Like, I almost wonder, like, was it too successful and that they just were programmed and became self-aware, or like, is it some weird stuff with like the elemental shard? Almost like you create life and something happens where it almost like spontaneously generates like its own soul.
Yeah, that's a good point. Going back to Hanford, they also did for whatever reason they wanted a sample of Purnell from from Camp Edward for some reason, and they made a copy of him essentially, and that's the one you fight in transit. So what was it? My interpretation was like they were using him as like an unlimited source of power. That's what they're trying to do. That's why he comes out whenever you turn on the power.
Yeah, I'm still, because in the original timeline, it's somehow a clone, but at least at the end of Alpha Omega or something, doesn't we send that Purnell to the Hanford site as well, right? Just to keep it straight.
Either two or they combine
into one.
Right. Yeah, the one we fight in transit doesn't seem to have any. Well, there's like Morse code that might be from him, but for the most part, yeah, he seems like he doesn't have the same personality that the same edgy personality as the one from Alpha Omega.
I'm trying to think, like, because I always thought that Purnell and it was like a reverse teleportation thing where like the body is anchored somewhere else and it's almost like an astral projection. But it makes me wonder, with the whole thing with souls and the universe being fractured and split, is it less of like actually like genetic cloning and maybe like they split his essence, and that's what the one in the Hanford site is? Less of a clone, but more of like a, because there is like a weird connection between the Avogadro and like the Mob of the Dead, like how souls have been presented in the Ether story as having some type of like electrical element to them. So I almost wonder, like, is it like his essence or something?
That's a good point.
I can imagine something like that, just in the sense it does appear to be more like pure energy as opposed to, some type of clone, or, it does seem different in that way, just in the fact that it's energy. So I could see that.
I like how we have to like address that now because of Tagderton. It's like we actually have like clones in the game, so before you could just like pass it off as something. Right. It's like, no, now you have to make that distinction.
They also accidentally created denizens. So do you think they're like? My interpretation originally was that they were just monkeys that got super messed up with whatever they were doing, but I don't really know.
I was sort of hoping that they were just like animals.
They've got monkey tails, so they seem to be monkey based. But is it like a Nova Crawler thing where it's?
Yep, that's what I was gonna say.
They started as something completely different and just transformed into that.
Well, I think it's like also given the other thing about Broken Arrow is I feel like Broken Arrow is just that universe's Men in Black.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
So
sort of
that's what you're saying.
well, yeah, because I know there was the theory that they're somehow aliens. I mean, I guess maybe they're more like apothicons. I wouldn't rule out that possibility. I would originally just have said, oh, they're just some type of zombified, like horribly deformed animal. But we've got apothicons.
So they're ancients. So it's like in the Great War, there's little denizens running around too.
Although
I
you know
love
what's
it.
weird, I want to say they're
Imagine.
apothicons, but don't they? They don't. I don't feel like they have any of the characteristics of what we've seen like the apothicons and keepers to have. Like at least the Nova Crawlers still have
Yeah,
the
they don't
teeth.
have glowing eyes. They don't seem to be like they don't care about you unless you enter their territory,
Yeah,
and
so
they're
like
kind of scared of you. So yeah, I see your point. Yeah,
are they
they seem
like
more independent.
actually aliens? Like this is just like this series is subtle way of like introducing other things. Or,
Maybe. Yeah, I
um,
mean they have such a mysterious name too. Denizens of the forest. They're not bios because I mean bios are, for one, they're like they can't die, and also they will just continuously attack you like zombies. But
oh, you know what it
yeah,
reminds me? I don't think it's exactly the same, but is it the Hopkinsville Goblin? It's like the extraterrestrial.
some kind of cryptid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you
like
know what?
another
I bet it
crypt.
is based on some kind of cryptid. If we looked into
It's
it more.
I they don't look exactly like it, but if I don't know. Here I can link images in Skype now that I'm thinking about it. Um, like I almost wonder if they're based on that because they supposedly like float and they look like little gremlin things. So I wonder if that's the
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe this is off topic, but I've noticed that every single one of these cryptids can usually just be explained as an owl. Like the Mothman,
yeah,
probably just an owl
Owlman.
in the middle of
Owl.
the night and you don't know what you're seeing. But
Well,
that's
yes,
why I love them. I just love them.
I
Anyway,
really feel like
yeah.
the denizens are just one of the most confusing parts of, well, I don't even know how to, for me, the Hanford site, there was so much potential there with just the Manhattan Project lead-ins that we've
hmm
had from Kino and other places that I was semi disappointed in what they did with it. And so I was going to say that I think the denizens are like one of like really the biggest mysteries of zombies to me.
yeah.
But it also isn't that surprising because I feel like the Hanford site, Green Run Transit was all just lacking in a lot of explanation or
Yeah,
potential for me.
very little
So
context.
Well, it's weird that the what was it? Jeb's mom becoming the ghost, the lady of the manor, actually gets an explanation. Like I would have expected that to have been one of the things that was just not addressed, and that's addressed before the denizens. Like you have the bios, you have everything with Purnell. It's like, oh, clearly they're going to bring up the denizens and like how they got there. No, but I don't know. Yeah, what are the denizens? That's annoying too because they're so unique, and I don't know what they.
Right. It could be something very simple, just testing on monkeys or something. But or it could be like, yeah,
you
like you
know,
said, something crazy.
maybe they look like to me, they look almost like deformed versions of what we see in the Kino crates or the Kino barrels. Maybe like a lot smaller. So maybe denizens were originally 935 in a different form, and we like they were like the crawlers or
Remarkable.
whatever, and we took it and we changed it even further.
If you really wanted to become like have a dark storyline, maybe they're I don't know because they almost remind me of like a fetus or something like that. Like what if they're children or some like weird experiment going on with like the locals that led to like denizens? But yeah, I
See,
don't know.
Wow, this guy's getting
maybe.
crazy with it.
Well, see, I like that they have those monkey tails. So
Yeah,
this might be like a devolution thing. If they started as humans and they were like
yeah.
forcibly devolved into those disgusting little creatures, those little demons. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I don't know. Hmm. I guess we can move on from Green Run unless we have anything else about that.
No, just maybe wait, I guess, for the next game, right? If we ever finally get
Transit
the
Remastered.
Transit Remastered, we'll
Who's
probably...
who?
You know what? We're going to have those answers in like 6 months, so yeah.
Yeah, worthless podcast, like you said. But what about Who's Who? Oh wait, no. Tombstone. Sorry, Tombstone. How does Tombstone work?
You know, well, okay, Soul Shard. I don't know. Well, now that the perks are all related to Monty and everything, that was PhD Flopper was always one that kind of like threw me off. But there was something about, I don't know, was it Apothecon Blood, or there was something later that made me think, oh, I guess PhD Flopper could be explained that way.
Oh yeah, because it was
But
the monkeys and it came from the atmosphere or whatever. I remember that.
Yeah, so I feel like Apothecon Blood could be related to PhD Flopper, but Tombstone and Who's Who essentially do the same thing, right? Tombstone just allows
Make a
you
clone.
Is it a clone? Is it? Well, I'm wondering if the connection to the Soul Shard is like it actually.
It's like your Mob of the Dead ethereal form.
Yeah, is it actually the soul now? Because now that we have stuff like that, and like your soul, your essence.
Right.
Anyway,
I was just.
No,
goofing.
I think that's.
So okay, next thing is Camp Edward, aka Nuketown, which started out as a literal Nuketown. It was where you test dropping a nuke on a fake suburban city. So and then they converted to Camp Edward, knowing people wouldn't want to go anywhere near a Nuketown. So.
But was it also because that's sort of a failsafe against or right? No, they were there before the beginning. I don't know. But the nuke was used, eventually turned into a failsafe to go off, right? Okay.
Right. So yeah, nukes are still an important part of it. Also, they were trying to seemingly resurrect the dead. They were working with the APD. So they're trying to recreate the MPD by making like an artificial version. So I know that Classified shows they were trying to look for like the same stuff that Richtofen uses in Black Ops 1 for his scheme. They just couldn't get to Griffin Station in time. So the solution or alternative was to make this APD, this artificial one, which is really interesting. I don't know, maybe there was like designs in some sort of journal or something.
Yeah, because I don't, because the Jeb's journal only has like the Pack-a-Punch, and like we don't really get. Well, you know what? Maybe the teleporters to the moon were already established, right? So I'm guessing they. I
don't think they get. I want to say they don't get established by the time like Purnell gets in the
Camp Edward.
Gets into the pyramid and all in 1968. I don't think they were.
Because how would they have that?
Because the two things he needed were on the moon, I'm pretty sure, and it was like he couldn't get them, so this was the alternative. But I don't know. I might be wrong on that.
No. I mean, you're probably right. The other thing is, does Purnell say that he was visited by angels again too? So maybe
yes. So he might have got divine. They showed him how to do it, which is totally valid, I think. Total possibility.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would suspect.
Right. They got the 80 AMs, so it seems like they started off as just kind of cleaning service robots, and then they like made Project Toy Soldier, which was to make them into soldiers. That was a weird thing too, kind of like the cloning, where it's like they introduced that, but they never have. I guess the U.S. military doesn't ever do that. So like, nah.
Well, I guess it's one of those things where, because I think Rushmore does say it's a black site, so it's just probably maybe no one really knows what happened, and I feel like it's kind of setting up with when Purnell finally ascends into the APD and like merges with technology. I guess it's a convenient thing, like, oh, you happen to have a whole mechanized infantry. Like, they're then become like an extension of his will or whatever, just how like someone in the, Samantha controls the zombies. I guess it makes sense that like he's able to control all of the toy soldiers.
Hmm. Oh, yeah, that's actually a good idea that he intentionally like made these soldiers a thing, knowing that his ultimate goal was to get into the pyramid. And
Yeah, because I guess in
because
some
like
ways it's
yeah, like the dreams he had involved like lightning shooting up into his spine and him turning into the Avogadro.
yeah, which I just like
Mm.
the jump scare. Like it looks like the flesh is being burned off, and I still kind of like the idea that it is being like seared, but in a weird way it's also like teleporting him, where he's like just suspended like in the ether, and this
Mhm.
is like a projection of his consciousness or something like that. To an extent, like through like his um what was it, like nervous system, but I don't know. I feel like that's the only way it makes sense because it was such a strange addition to the game. I mean,
Right.
so many other things were strange additions to the game, so at this point, beggars can't
Right.
be
Right.
choosers.
Right.
Right.
Well, so this is an interesting one. This was the site where MK Alpha was the
Hmm.
focus. So there's MK Ultra, which is CIA experiments on people, mind control type stuff. MK Alpha is like the sister project to that, where they can use the APD to like breach people's thoughts and kind of get into their head. And they used it on Yuri, and eventually it slowly killed him. Um, so it's like I don't know. That's a really strange and messed up form of interrogation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the important starting point is to think of basically all of the MK operations as really weird and messed up forms of interrogation and trying to pull things out of the human mind basically. So like yeah, that's I mean, it's a weird one for them to add in, but I find myself less surprised over time. It's kind of a clever way to slip it in.
Right. It seems like the
Yeah,
ultimate form of that.
yeah, I was gonna say it makes sense because it's kind of like the MK program on steroids, and it's like, all right, well, if you hypothetically speaking in this universe have the technology to do all these wacky things, then it's like assigning a specific division to, hey, can you replicate this project but with this? And it's like, okay, that makes sense why they would, um, you know. And there's always the connection, right? That some of the stuff from MK Ultra was also influenced by research from like Nazi Germany, and then you have like Group 935 also talking about mind control. So it's just like you have that whole lineage of why we would wind up to forcibly going through people's minds with some type of ancient uh, device.
Well, see, here's a question that I've been thinking about. So is the APD, it's not as powerful as the MPD. It can only have like function, it can only have a control
Oh,
over a small area, correct? So,
well, that could also explain the atoms too. Like maybe
mm,
it's like he can't have, or I guess he still kind of controls the zombies, but maybe it's just easier to work with, interface with
right,
electronics
right.
than.
But like, so he's not inside the ether when he's inside that thing. He's always, it seems like he's in some sort of extension of the ether, something smaller, or like he's just poking a hole into it and letting it leak out. And that's what he's using to like breach into someone's soul and read their mind.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just curious how much he can see from the ether, because it seems like whenever he's in Alpha Omega, he's like doing, the boss fight. He's like, "I've seen your future, I've seen you die." So it's like he's seen something, but as the Avogadro, when he's Purnell, like interrogating Yuri, he doesn't seem like he knows everything.
I guess it's kind of like, you know, take the metaphor of someone sitting at an infinite number of computer screens, and there's everything that's technically there, but I guess it's you at your expense that you have to individually look. Like maybe that could explain why, even though he has the ability to, he can only,
Mhm.
he's he's not, he might be like omniscient but not omnipresent. Um,
Mhm.
and also hate getting on a tangent, but he talked about like blackout being some type of weird plane of like consciousness. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like this kind of adds to that because with the whole thing with the keepers and the apothecons coming to people in their dreams, and maybe the ether does, especially with its connection to um, the like nervous system and the brain, maybe there is an element of like you can access someone's mind through this.
I just blew my own mind. The APD research becomes what they use to like create the blackout simulation. So yeah, it's like not a simulation. It's like a little kind of universe within the mind.
Tell me, Corvus isn't something like the Avogadro.
Right. Yeah.
Like I really, ever since the especially with Alpha Omega, it really, like, I felt that there were parallels, and it kind of makes sense with MK Ultra and MK Alpha being sister programs. Like maybe these were the things that were salvaged from Camp Edward, and that became Blackout. That's what I think.
Right. Yeah, I like that. That's good stuff.
That's where I'm hoping the storyline.
More, please connect Blackout. Don't just abandon it. Yeah, I think we're the only people on the Earth that want that. I think we're the only people that care. Anyway, Camp Edward, they've also got mining operations. This is where they build that giant dome drill that we see in the Nuketown loading screen. They apparently build that sometime in 1964, and they use that to mine 115, but you just don't see it in the map. I think because it has some sort of cloak, or maybe it's just not
at that point,
somewhere else right now. I don't know.
So the other thing is, I mean, it's obviously they didn't anticipate Alpha Omega back when Nuketown Zombies came out, but it looks like, for the most part, when you see the destruction and some of the buildings and stuff that's exposed, you don't really get a sense that there was a whole secret base and an underground bunker complex kind of attached to everything.
Yeah.
I mean, do you just chalk it up as obviously they just didn't have that idea back then, or because at least for the storyline purposes, Camp Edward is established in the original timeline, right?
You could just say the nuke going off.
Yeah, like
just like blew it all away, so you can't see it. But yeah, it doesn't bother me that much. But yeah,
I don't know why, but I'm in the same boat of. I don't know why it doesn't bother me at all, but it's. I'm usually a stickler for retcons, but now I'm realizing with this one, I'm actually, it doesn't impact me very much, and I don't know why. I guess
maybe I'm misremembering. It's just because I think of when you turn the power on in Alpha Omega, that room, isn't that house sort of exposed, if I remember, in Nuketown Zombies? So I just feel like you would see some type of like not like just simply wiring, but the metal skeleton of everything that was there. But I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering. Like I just feel like that would have stuck out. But obviously
that whole power room is like obliterated. It's not even there anymore. Yeah.
Okay. I can't
remember. I think it's just a wall, like where zombies can spawn in from like the crater.
I don't know why I thought you could see into the garage. Never mind then.
Yeah. About it. Yeah, I guess it doesn't bother me because Nuketown's already a pretty mysterious map. Yeah. It feels kind of fitting that it's like there's all this stuff going on the ground. It's more fun.
And there was at least the bunker there, so there was some subterranean complex, I guess, that was always sort of a theory, but like, yeah, to the extent of what it is in Alpha Omega is obviously because of came much later.
Mm-hmm. So, anything else on Camp Edward? What's going on? I like the name.
I do like the name.
Yes.
Camp Edward. That's just like, once you get it, you get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's got to be
because of him.
I might be misremembering, but I might be misremembering. But I think in real life, the United States has something called Camp Schuster, and so I was wondering if maybe that was a play on.
Oh, I'm gonna take my time
on that.
I'm gonna take my time to plug this. Schuster lives on after the Dr. Lehman incident. I know he lives on. You know why? Because he's in the Nuketown loading screen. He's the guy. And that drill doesn't get built until a year after that incident. So Schuster lives on. He lives his happy life. And like you said, he gets Camp Schuster named after him. Boom.
Wow.
I'm telling the world.
Okay.
He lives
I like it.
The best
Makes me
character
think
of all
though.
time.
What was the? Do you know the backstory of Camp Schuster? Like in the real world, obviously. Is it the reason for the name?
No, I don't. I just remember that it was mentioned in, if I'm correct, it was mentioned in GK Nova in the original viral.
Ah.
That's all.
Oh, if it is mentioned in the okay, so then that that his naming obviously was definitely intentional, and I'm assuming then that in
So
this
it is a real
universe
life
it's
thing?
I'm looking it up now.
I'm trying to find it. So I am curious when it
I
was
just
set up. Was it a GK Nova only thing? Because that's even more sus.
because was Schuster he was Moon, right? That was the first time we hear his
Yes.
okay. Because I guess it's a little more feasible then that they planted that seed back during GK Nova, but
Yeah, I just love Schuster. Need more of him. Anyway, that's my plug. Alright, so let's transition into, I guess, Groom Lake, aka Hangar 18, aka Area 51. Lots going on there. So this is, we know, one of the original sites for Element 115. It was found back, shoot, when was it found? It was found like
38?
way before the war. Yeah, like
Yeah.
38-ish, like when the Tunguska. It's when everyone was fighting 115, besides Germany. So one, it's a source, and so they decided to build, Area 51 around it, and it's pretty close to Camp Edward, which is interesting.
Yep. Probably not a coincidence.
Right. So we don't know a whole lot about what they were specifically testing there. Probably alien stuff. Probably, special aircraft. I imagine UFOs potentially. But well, okay. Here's a question: do you think this might go into a whole tangent? But I mean, we know we're into the whole idea of everything's canon, right?
Yeah.
There's the multiplayer Hangar 18 map there's like a whole area with actual aliens in them. Like actual
denizens.
aliens.
There you go, denizens.
Oh no.
They were alien greys. They turned into denizens. Yeah, that's a good explanation. So that opens a whole can of worms, I think.
Yes, it does. A good one, I think, but yes, it does.
Is the multiplayer map? If I recall, isn't it very similar to the one that's in Moon?
Yes, they use a lot of the same assets. Like the central building is the same one. That's just
okay. Yes, I mean that's the
set up a
main.
little differently.
Yeah.
There's also like a whole area with there's like an apple that's suspended in the air by like electricity or something. And it's like this whole underground segment.
Weird.
And I think that's underground segment's the same thing that's under the teleporter. I might be making that up. But
no, but that makes sense though, with like all the like UFOs being anti-gravity and stuff like that. It's so weird. You can't. Yeah, I they have to be connected, especially because that's the source material for a lot of things in zombies.
Right. So where do the aliens fit into the Great War?
Are they maybe really apothecons?
Oh god.
They are Brillia, baby.
Maybe they're just
They are the original Brillia.
Let's go!
I mean, one of the other things too, with all the experiments that have gone on with opening up portals to other dimensions. I mean, could it just be possible that it's maybe like Collateral, or where they opened up a portal to like another planet or another world or something, and these were just sort of the denizens of that world that kind of came through?
Huh. Possible. Could also be the alien from Zombies in Spaceland.
That's true.
Could be connected to that universe as well. All good possibilities. Anyway, that's a good discussion to have, I think.
True.
Also,
Put a pin in that one.
It's okay. Yeah, we should put a pin. Because I was gonna go on the whole thing, but also we know, yeah, teleporter testing. Specifically, they were trying to get to Griffin Station before the Russians did, and I don't think it's ever made clear if they ever do. I mean, we know in the real world that in 1969 they actually landed on the moon with a rocket, but we don't know, did they get there before that, or is like the moon landing fake, and actually they actually finished the teleporter.
I'm gonna go ahead and say MK Alpha, MK Ultra, Paperclip. Is Paperclip ever mentioned in GK Nova?
Yes.
Okay, so okay,
is.
good.
Specifically in the context of Kurt Blome.
Perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and say these were things that were happening simultaneously, and they kind of mirrored each other. So I wouldn't be surprised if even those within the government, and especially in NASA, probably weren't even aware. I know it's kind of as ridiculous as it sounds, but I don't know. Maybe they could. You know what I mean? Like I like to think that these things were sort of secretive, and on a need to know basis, and the space race still happened simultaneously with the space race to the Nazi moon base. So, and I think it might have mirrored the same thing where maybe the United States got there first. Because it seems to be, when you take into account GK Nova and everything, that the history plays alongside and it doesn't overwrite it. They're just sort of like, you have the Wonder Weapon research, and then you have the 935 division. You have MK Ultra, and you have MK Alpha. You have the space race, and you have the teleporter race to space.
Right. So. Well, the space race definitely still happens. It's mentioned in
Yeah.
TOG by I think Gersh. So it's like this is still a technological race. It might just be not necessarily about rockets, but building the teleporter.
It's
but I think
all encompassing.
Yeah, I guess what I meant was like it happens, but it's separate enough from the 115 stuff, because they seem to do a thing where they dichotomize, like, here's all the wacky 115 related things, and here's what actually happened. So I'm guessing that it's not like the space race in that universe was about 115 and getting to the moon. It's that, or the moon base. It's that it they still did that, and they also were trying to teleport.
Do you think the reason that maybe the U.S. got there first was the Soviets lost the Ascension facility? Because it seemed like they were studying, like, I mean, they had literal lunar landers there. They were studying to actually build rockets to the moon, not just for weaponry.
I mean, that's sort of the implication, right? Of Black Ops, where you crippled their program, because isn't that where I think Sputnik was launched or something like that? So I guess it's I guess supposedly it's the Black Ops campaign, and then the zombie outbreak screwed over the Soviets.
Right. So much of the space race in real life and of that aspect is the Soviets being ahead of us for almost all of the way up until the moon landing, and then we do the moon landing, and we then like that gets to be the end of it. We're like, okay, let's go, we did it, that's, and so like we get to claim the space base, but really, or the space race, but really they were ahead of us most of the way, which I think is an interesting.
Yeah, that does mirror it, because I'm sure, I mean, they might have been like really close. Well, because it's also mirrored in, like, it's mentioned that the Soviets get their teleporter built first, like just a teleporter, straight up, is built before the Americans can get one. So yeah, I think they were ahead up until they lost the Ascension facility, and that's when it kind of.
I mean, there's so many.
Flipped.
They had, I think, they had first satellite into space, first animal. They put first person.
Yeah, a bunch of monkeys. There's a whole monkey colony.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it probably, they're separate, but they mirror each other, and that's probably exactly what happened.
I'm with you.
I like it that way too, because it's one of the things that in other games where they sort of overwrite history, and it's kind of like, well, I don't know, it just doesn't feel as interesting when it's like, oh, what you know, it doesn't matter because this is completely different. Like I kind of like that Call of Duty keeps it secretive, but it's also separate and simultaneous. So that's kind of a nice touch. So, good on you.
Also, I mean, so one of the first things they try to build at Groom Lake is a teleporter directly to the Pentagon. So it's almost like that underground area of the Pentagon is like an extension of Groom Lake. It's like it's,
Yeah.
West Wing or whatever. Or East Wing.
Yeah, I was gonna say I almost wondered if we should have it on our facilities list. It's the one American facility we didn't. That wasn't up. But yeah, the Pentagon here seems so crucial.
There's some other places that probably should be on the list too.
Yeah.
Fair. There are some that can be argued.
Broken Arrow gets a little bit everywhere, but I mean, on Groom Lake, we also know that they were holding prisoners there. Like they held Ultimus there, like in just a little cell in the middle of a hangar or something, which was strange. But maybe it's just like there's all those buildings when you look at outside the map. Maybe it's just like a lot of storage for like materials that don't need to be out and about, I suppose. I don't know. There's probably a lot going on in Area 51 we don't know about. Not just in real life.
There's too much. That's been one of the fun parts about it. Was one of the earliest things mentioned with the Purnell radio in Shinonuma. So just the theories have been flying forever about how it, the Bob Lazar stuff early was huge. Yeah, it's a never ending, the fact that we find the Thunder Gun in the basement of the Pentagon, we got the Nova 6, we got the pigs, the crawlers, it's a never ending well of theory.
So I also wonder, like, what were they doing before they got Group 935 scientists? Because it's clear they had the 115 and they were doing something with it because Maxis mentioned operatives at the Nevada base. Like, seeing that the U.S. has this large supply of 115. Mm-hmm. It almost seems like, from our point of view, because we don't know anything, that like they just did nothing with it, while the Germans nearly just could have won the war overnight. But
yeah, I guess. Well, I'm kind of curious. No, most of the breakthroughs kind of came before. I think Richtofen and the Shadow Man kind of had their connection. I guess it's just Germany was the only one who just through luck of the draw had the right people at the right place at the right time to be able to tap into its real potential. And
well, I mean, Maxis was guided by Monty, so to speak.
Yeah, I know I brought that up, but like I feel like I don't want it to cheapen the blow, but I guess in a sense it kind of mirrors some of the history. When you think of like Nazi Germany and sort of like on the precursor of rocketry and stuff like that. So I guess it's just also, the same thing.
I mean, Group 935 is international, so they do have people from all over the world, whereas there's no other organization at the time like it, presumably.
Yeah, they probably had a wider pool of intellect to pull from, I guess.
But anything else to mention about Area 51 specifically?
Too much, unfortunately.
Too much. That's true. It's worth a whole podcast just on conspiracies and stuff.
Truly.
So now some
and the fact that we have the whole, German real spacecraft, theories. There's just that's a whole episode on itself about alien spacecraft and Area 51 versus Styglock and that whole thing.
What's funny too is that there's a subsection of those Nazi UFO conspiracy theories that say that they got it from extraterrestrials, and it also kind of fits with Richtofen and Maxis being contacted by Monty and the Shadow Man and stuff like that. So it's a weird kind of circular thing.
I didn't think of that. That's interesting.
It all works. It all works.
Although I'm assuming the Styglock, though, was a little bit before the Shadow Man and stuff. But I don't know. It seems like they were kind of nudging them in that direction anyway.
Yeah.
But
well, if Tyglok's connected to the teleporter, that's what Maxis marks like the first teleporter with the Monty thing. So he could have had influences way back in like creation
okay.
of 935 for all we know.
Is that where he says this is for M or something like, or thank you M? Is that what he says?
Yeah, for M, who started me on this journey.
Yeah.
Which, that's a whole plot. That's a whole thing. So
that concludes part 1 of our discussion on Broken Arrow's facilities. Please tune in next week for part 2.